United States Senator Jim Talent retired, used to be in the Senate. Now he's with the Bipartisan Policy Center and a regular guest. Happy Thanksgiving, Jim. Good to have you back.
Thanks, Hugh, and same to you about Thanksgiving.
All right. I want to begin. I got a couple of things to cover with you, but I got to play for you a tape that was sent to me by good friends of a demonstration in New York City on Saturday afternoon. And let's play cut number 4 for Senator Talent. So, Senator, do you hear what I hear?
I heard some chanting. What were they saying?
Let's play it one more time, see if you can hear it, so that from the very beginning. Go ahead. It's hard to hear over the phone. Did you pick it up?
It sounds like kill the Jews.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's a lot of people. It's near the river, so I think it's sort of near Union Square because you can see the river there. And then we combine it with the Jewish kids who had to be rescued from the UC San Diego campus on Saturday night, the University of Michigan break-in at the president's office, all the other stuff. What is going on, Jim Talent?
Well, we're seeing surfacing again, and I never thought I would see it. These huge public displays of one of the oldest and most dangerous hatreds, anti-Semitism. I don't know if you saw the speech Barry Weiss gave to the Federalist Society, but she makes the point. Yes, and she makes the point there that when this becomes public and when it is celebrated by people who are at the commanding heights of the culture too, it's a very bad sign for society. It's a sign of decline and decay, and it has to be stopped. And she's absolutely correct in that.
Now, there was a story in the Messenger yesterday. Progressive left's anti-Semitism threatens Democrats in 2024 and beyond. I'm not a partisan about this. I think it's evil on both parties. There's a small fraction of the Republican Party that's anti-Semitic, and they've always been shunned. This is a large percentage. I mean, it's maybe double digits in the Democratic Party, and I don't think it's being shunned effectively. Senator, what do you think?
Well, there are some standing up against it. That's clear, but it is a problem for them. And I think it's more, I don't know in terms of numbers, but institutional capture. I mean, we've seen it now in the cities. We've seen it in the academy, which is what's absolutely depressing. So, yeah, there are political overtones to it, but I believe, and I know you believe as well, the major problem is what it says about our culture and the kind of...
I agree. You know who's been excellent on this? Secretary of State Clinton. She just will not put up with this when people try and feed her the pro-Hamas line or the pro-ceasefire line at a panel. I think she's done it 2 or 3 times. She just will not put up with it.
And I think you know how Mr. Gallagher comes on the show, and other than the Packers, he talks about TikTok. This kind of thing just shows the need to get our kids off of TikTok and get TikTok out of the country. I mean, we are indoctrinating kids in some very, very bad things.
You know, Chairman Gallagher does not talk much about the Packers anymore, Senator.
Well, they did a little better yesterday, didn't they? But
they didn't do as good as the Browns. Let me turn to
from Cleveland is coming on. Go ahead.
Let's turn to China. At the debate, I got 3 rounds of questions. All of them were about China. One was about the Navy, one was about TikTok, and one was about opioids beginning in China. And I'm encouraged by the general inclination of the Republicans to be tough on China. But boy, that was a disappointing display of weakness by the president in San Francisco.
Yes, and I tell you, I don't care what the Chinese supposedly agreed to regarding, let's say, fentanyl, much less AI use. They're not going to follow through on anything that sacrifices their national objectives. And so, my question on all of these things is, what do we actually give up? Because whatever it is, we're not getting anything for it. This is a charm offensive that Xi is involved in, I suspect, because given what's happening domestically right now, he wants a rhythm where he doesn't appear as confrontational, but they're not going to keep any promises they made.
You saw corporate CEOs from all over the country give him repeated rounds of applause, Xi, the dictator Xi. And I thought to myself, would they have done that for the Fuhrer or Mussolini in 1938 before the war? It's incredible to me that they are ignoring the destruction of Hong Kong's freedom, the genocide of the Uyghurs, and the threatening of Taiwan. But corporate America doesn't seem to care.
I thought the same thing. I can see, I don't want to pretend to be holier than thou. I can see meeting with the guy if your business depended on it. But a standing ovation, come on. It's not worth it, you.
It isn't.
We're coming up on Thanksgiving week and then Christmas week. You can't serve God and money, can you?
No, and some people are trapped because they fell into the trap that we all fell into. The end of history trap, I call it, the Francis Fukuyama, boy, China's going to evolve. And they didn't. They went backwards. They regressed into purely Leninist dictatorship. Now to the Wall Street Journal this morning, Alistair Gale, long story, Senator. The era of total U.S. submarine dominance over China is ending. New Chinese submarines and sensors to catch U.S. subs will alter the balance of power. Now, I don't know that Alistair Gale will know everything that we're doing, and I've heard from former CNOs that we actually have a pretty significant advantage in the underwater domain. But when I asked the question about the fleets, only one of the candidates came up with submarines as the answer, Senator.
Yeah, I believe we still have a significant advantage in the undersea domain. Every one of the navalists, when I ask that question of them, they say yes, the ones I respect, including our friend Captain Hendricks. The problem, is it's very difficult, obviously, to build a nuclear submarine. We don't have the shipyard capability, and I'm concerned that we don't have a sufficient architecture or infrastructure of knowledge and skill anymore to expand it quickly. Intention, power is a result of intention and capability. Intention can change quickly. Capability can't. I've said this on the show on a number of occasions. You cannot flip a switch and produce an attack submarine or a missile frigate. We have to expand the shipyards. There are people, as you know, like Tom Cotton trying to do that, but it's not going to be quick.
I've been reading the first volume of Churchill's World War memoirs in tandem with Dr. Arnn, and I sent him a note. We'll talk about this in a few weeks, where he says Lord Kirchner gets appointed to run the army in World War I in the first week of the war, and he advises them it's going to be a long haul. And Churchill writes, the small scale of our military forces had led to equally small factories for war material. That was in 1914. The same thing is true about America right now. It takes forever to get up to speed.
Yes, and the most important thing is to send a strong and consistent demand signal. We are getting a surge now, for example, in capability to produce artillery shells, even missiles, and it's because we've been sending a consistent demand signal. Top line, we can't forget that. A lot of people, even good people, otherwise sound people, are so worried about the deficit they don't want to increase the defense budget substantially. If we don't do that, we're going to be fighting industry on this question of the defense industrial base, because they don't want to invest a whole lot of money in shipyards or fighter aircraft production unless they believe the market is going to be there. And there's really only one market. It's the armed forces of the United States. So you have to send the demand signal with the money. That's what Reagan did in the 80s. That's how John Lehman rebuilt the Navy.
It's also incredible to me. We know we need the submarines, not only built, but serviced. And we only have a couple of places to do that. It would not be hard to expend the money to begin the process of building 2 or 3 new submarine shipyards strategically located, not just in Connecticut and Washington State or South Carolina, but across the United States, wherever they can do it.
Yes, exactly. Maintenance facilities. This is going to take a lot of ingenuity. And I think it's going to take tight chains of command within the department. In other words, a good OSD, Secretary of Defense, a good deputy, and tight chains of command. In other words, there are certain people who have this explicit responsibility. They're given the authority. I think the statutory authority is there. They're told to come up with a plan, and not in a year, in a month, and then they're held to accountability in executing the plan. And the service secretaries and the chiefs have to be at the center of it. We need good service secretaries and chiefs, not people who got there because they gave somebody a lot of money in a campaign. And then
we had We had First Lady Rosalind Carter pass away this weekend. It called to mind the best things about the Carter administration, one of which was he got the signal when Russia invaded Afghanistan, and I think it was Harold Brown and he turned the DOD on a dime, did they not?
They began the process that Reagan picked up, and that is correct. And the Congress gave them increases in the top line. Yeah, that did open his eyes. It was 3 years too late. But, he'd been currying favor with them, and then they turned around and invaded Afghanistan, and he was able to see it.
Well, I hope we get the same thing out of the current president, but let me play for you what I had to say on Bret Baier on Friday night, Senator, because Bret showed me all the stats and the panel, all the stats on how the president is losing to Trump, he's losing to all the Republicans, and he's losing on every issue. And I commented this, cut number one.
Hugh, your thoughts?
Well, Senator Manchin is right. We should do better. I also have to add, no matter what the issue set is, I keep looking at a president who is infirm. And I think we all have to begin to recognize that the president's infirmity is something that you cannot hide, and perhaps they will try to hide it as we go along by keeping him out of sight. But that factors into these numbers because you really can't see him getting better at this job than he's already been. Now, Senator, I use the word infirmity advisedly because I'm not a neurologist, I'm not a doctor, but I can see someone visibly declining. Do you think that's what's behind the president's precipitous drop in his numbers?
I think it's a big part of it, yes. There's also the pain people are feeling and the fear they have about the future because of things like the border and crime, And look, you don't have to be an expert to see this. I mean, I'm not a vet, but I know a dog when I see one, right? And in other words, anybody who's been around Joe Biden in the past and sees him now and listens to him knows that he is impaired, at the very least, in communication. And, I mean, it's just he could always put words together. I've been saying this on the show since the administration began. I mean, that's clear, and it's amazing to me. I mean, you understand this better than I do, why the press has resisted reporting on this, because it's so obvious to everybody.
Oh, they've resisted because it's so obviously a broken media. But Senator Jim Talent is not part of that problem. He's part of the solution. Jim Talent on X. Go and follow him. Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving to you, Senator.